Hello, this is Mary Kay. This is a new experiment for me. I'm going to try to do my demonstration painting and put it on YouTube. So the picture that I have is this heron. It's got the light on it. I like the dark background. You can either just draw this on your piece of Arches paper. This is 7.5 by 11 cold press, 140 pound. Or you can trace it. And then I used PBO drawing gum to go along the outline and the feet. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet all the background, but not the bird. I can go right over the parts that have PBO on it, so right over his head. I just don't want to get the inside of the body wet. I love those feathers. I'm painting on a mahogany board. It's a 1/4 inch mahogany board. I'm not wetting the bottom, just the top. Over the legs. This is just water. I'm going to start with cerulean blue. This was taken at the harbor in Princeton. And so this is a little bit of water that's in the harbor. It's sort of following the blue up there. If I have blue on this side of the bird here, there needs to be blue on that side of the bird there, so that your eye will know that that bird's in front. Now I'm going to go into a very dark color to try to get that dark rocks. And I'm going to use burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue. It's really helpful if you have a little bit of fresh paint squeezed out so that you can get your colors fast. You don't have to dig and dig and dig like I am right now. So I'm putting on this dark here, all across the top. It's not quite as dark as the photograph yet. I'm going to try to add some more colors to it. I've been using a new color for about 6 months called neutral tint. I'll add some neutral tint. Bye, sweetie. I want the background pretty dark. And I'm going to make my bird light, like the sun is on it. And even though the background in this picture is very dark, okay, I have to be careful now that I don't put any of this color right in the center of my bird. Just want it all behind him. I could have PBO'd the whole bird, but I just didn't want to waste it. Okay, so the background has one coat on it. I love how the the claws right here. You can see the background behind them. That's actually kind of nice. I like that. I'm going to put a little bit of permanent rose into this mixture here and add a little bit of these reds. I think a lot of times the kelp is up on these rocks and it has sort of a red tint to it. Again, if I put anything on one side of the neck, it has to be on the other side of the neck also. I'm going to hold this Viva paper towel in my hand and wet my brush, or dry my brush on it. So this color that I'm going into right now is Windsor green or Verdian green, or you can use My Merry Blue Green Blue. Its pigment in it is PG7. And I see a lot of green rocks, which I think is algae. This comes down. So I want it all blurry in this background. I don't want to have any sharp lines. It's all in the background, blurry. One thing I do want to put in the background though is just a couple bits of light. And the light that I'm going to be using today, the yellow that I'm using in the bird, is raw sienna. If you have been painting for 20 years and have some quinacridone gold, you can also use that, but they haven't made it in a long time. So I just need to put this in a couple places so that the bird, when we get the bird with raw sienna and we get the foreground here with some raw sienna, the background also has just a couple touches of it so that it becomes uniform. So that's all I did. I don't want my eyes to really go there, but I just want it to know that it's there. So what I'm going to do now is go to the foreground. The foreground, it looks like he's walking on a bunch of rocks with algae on it. So this is pure Winsor Newton raw sienna. Now I think I might leave like a little, well, just depends. So my background's wet, so if I touch it with this, it'll blur into it. I'm making all of these strokes with the tip of my brush sideways so that they're all very horizontal, and I'm leaving some white areas. I left a little bit of white right at the top so that this wouldn't bloom into the background, but it might like make nice little grasses if you do let it touch there. So I tried it right here. I just touched it barely. We'll see if it goes up. And now I'm going to go back into that green, which is, in my case, this is Windsor Green Blue shade. And I'm just going to kind of fill in these white areas. Ooh, we'll see what happens right there when I touched it. So I'm just making these same brush strokes with the tip of my brush, very horizontal. I'm going to put some of those darks in, but not very many. I want it to be much lighter than that background. So a couple darks here. Let's try that. I'll try the neutral tint with the burnt sienna. Okay, I'm just going to put a little bit, especially kind of down in these corners, because I don't want my eye to go out these corners. I want to just darken my corners. And maybe some of those white areas, the white paper still showing. Okay, that's good enough. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of bamboo that's sharpened, and I'm going to write my name. Oh, here's the Arches watermark, so I don't want to write my name there. I guess I'll write it over here. Write it now. I'm going to do it right here. Okay, so I'm signing my name. I just dig into the paper. So my name is Mary Kay, and I always use my capital S for my maiden name, and then Jolly. And I put a C with a line around it so that it's a copyright mark. And that's my first step. You might want to mute PBO. The background has to be dry. Oops, I made a mistake right there. Okay, so this is called a pickup from Cheap Joe's. It's really good about lifting up the masking gum or whatever masking fluid you're using. You can see my big I made a mistake. I'm going to try to lift that up. Just take a little bit of water and wipe it on there. Scrub it a little bit. Lift it with a clean paper towel. And then I'm not going to worry about it very much. So this brush that I have here, I call it a museum pencil brush. It's about a number 10. This one is from the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. Now I'm going to start with this brush. I'm going to go into the raw sienna. And I'm going to put a coat of raw sienna, nice clean raw sienna, worked into my palette. Over the whole bird. Because I'm trying to get it to look like the sun is shining on it. This is a great blue heron. Now I'm going to go with this is a number 4 Scepter Gold. I don't know if you can hear the frogs. We've had a really wet year so far. So we have a pond in our backyard. It's not really a pond, it's it's a seasonal wetland is what it really is. So it's been wet and the frogs have been out croaking. When my kids were little, we went out and got tadpoles all the time and tried to raise them up to frogs. These are little green tree frogs. So I'm painting everything with this undercoat of raw sienna. There's a rock right here. I'm going to paint that rock. I'll put some shadow on the right side of it. And all these little feathers, they're so cute. Okay, now I'm going to start to shadow the neck with a little bit of burnt sienna into my raw sienna. So this side of the neck here, if I paint on that side, and then sort of, so I rinsed my brush and then I wet with my paper towel, and then I'm gonna blend that towards the center. So that made that neck look round. And maybe these little guys are a little darker since that's in the dark spot. Here's a little part on his neck. There's a little wing, I think it's his wing. I don't really know if this is a male or a female, but usually this time of year when they're out like this, they're the males, because the females are up in the nests. So this is the shadow of that little wing. Now, I've got to try to hide that line I put in. So I'm just using the tip of this brush and I'm putting in some darks. Not hiding it very well. I might try a different technique as I go along. So I just mixed burnt sienna and neutral tint. Now what I'm going to do is just put that dark spot on the top of his head. And I'm going to go back to pure burnt sienna, mixed with a little bit of raw sienna. And I'm going to put the beak in, just the line of the beak, just using like the two little pieces of brush at the end there. Okay, and there's the eye, you can't really see it, but there's a little shadow behind the eye that I just put in. And then the middle of the eye is actually it's not round. It's sort of almost a diamond right there. Now, I did not put a glint in that eye because it's just too small, too small for even a glint. I mixed up a little bit of yellow into the raw sienna, and I'm going to put a little circle, a little light. Yeah, okay, that's looking like an eye. Now, I didn't leave white there, so I'm going to get out something called Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. It's just in this little jar. I'm going to put my tip of my brush into it, a little water in my brush, and I'm going to just make a little, put a little white in there now. Kind of underneath that and here a little bit. There's a little bump there, just like that. Just leave it like that. I can also put in some white little feathers down here. Now I'm going to put a little bit of blue in these feathers right in here. I do see a little bit of blue. It is called a Great Blue Heron. I'm going to use French ultramarine blue. And some cerulean. Touch my paper towel so I don't have much in here. And I'm just going to put a few little lines of that color. So that I get the feel that there's a little bit of that. I'm going to add a little of that color there. Now I'm going to work on the legs. I'm just using burnt sienna again. It's got a tiny bit of that, either French ultramarine blue or the neutral tint. So if you can see how perfect that little claw is right there, I love that. So I'm just trying to darken these feet and make them look like they have scales on the feet. Maybe I'll just shadow that tiny little claw right there. And they have these big elbows, which bend funny. I like those. Over here, little tendons in their legs. And then this one disappears, so you don't see the foot on that. And the back side of this rock here, I'm gonna put a little shadow on it. And then on the little front side a little bit too, some color. I'm gonna look at it. I think I just need some more dark feathers in this area. I'm using my hand to go in the direction of all the feathers. I'm going to darken this head just a little bit more. And I think I've got it about. Just make that eyeball just, I don't know, just a tiny bit darker. I do want you to know the eye is there. Okay, I think I'm just gonna stop. That's how easy it is.